Synergetic Journal, January 30th through January 31st, 2026. Anticipating Omnirational Democracies, Equanimity on Earth, Episode 4. Christina Herlovson's Synergetics Research Project. My Synergetics Research Journal project refers to nature's coordinate system that was discovered by R. Buckminster Fuller, who was born 1895 in the United States of America. Bucky served in the United States Navy. He was known as the planet's friendly genius. In 1983, R. Buckminster Fuller was awarded the Medal of Freedom by President Ronald Reagan. The integrity of his discoveries can play a critical part in the future of any democracy on Earth that intends evolving out of the slave mentality conditioning. Reviewing the terms epistemological hierarchy in R. Buckminster Fuller's Synergetics Dictionary today, which Bucky used respecting omni-topology when describing the synthesis of topology and the quantum hierarchy, referential to Leonard Euler and Willard Gibbs, I learned that as of October 1975, Bucky concluded those terms were not descriptive. Thenceforth, instead of epistemological hierarchy, he used synergetics hierarchy. It is self-assuring to my research synergetically referenced writing process as of October 1975 that our humanity's synergetically informed anticipatory analytical developments with respect to the most accurately descriptive economical relationships applicable to our newest understanding of synergetic geometry that conceptually corresponds and correlates with synergetic hierarchies, relative volumes of growth of associative and dissociative systems, primarily because in this referential field, they will keep holding true for any magnitude. Surely, such trueness ought to be applicable to our anticipatory design science's omnirational democracy's equanimity on Earth. What else can we count on when intelligently hoping to reduce the tolerance magnitudes of the residual inaccuracies of the reenacting articulations and observations in systemic thoughts environments? Especially since the PRJWBCHM interrelating parameters historically show no public, private, or religion education evidence of general systems thinking that starts with universe, while expecting human populations being none the wiser and mostly satisfied with the misleading politics, religion, justice, war, belief complex, hierarchical matrices, interrelated, interdependent systems. Those belief systems typically are unaware of non-linear, omni-embracing, and permeating correlations to a differently cognized reality basis that referentially is the self-regenerating, patterning integrity of energetic, synergetic universe. To make matters of a lifetime more promising for our 21st century populations is The potential comparative alternative matrix, the UIVMOFCH, universe, isotropic vector matrix, operational field cosmic hierarchy, to which the PRJWBCHM factors can refer as a potential consciousness evolution for humans everywhere on Earth. With respect to Leonard Euler's topology and awareness of omnitopology, when describing the synthesis of topology and the quantum hierarchy, referential to Leonard Euler and Willard Gibbs is the differentiation of all the fundamental visual aspects of our human experience, the eye's radiation frequencies dealing in the external angles, whereas Willard Gibbs's phase rule introduces us to the difference between liquids, crystallines, and gases, having nothing to do with the eye, so they would be tactile and potentially relevant when dealing in the internal angles. In other words, energy is radiation, the coming apart phase, or energy that is associative as matter, is a different perspective and conception of different points of concern related to consciously coordinated thought language, thought actions, degrees of freedom within different states of any matter, any situation under consideration. Before learning of the essential integrations pertaining to generalizing concepts, conscious awareness of generalization principles, humanities, interpretive uses of language, unwittingly classified it either as esoteric terminologies, expected only to be of specialized interest and not expected to be understood by the average person. Relegated thus, supposedly the subject matter's language's complex systemic nature was not expected to be understood or to be of any purposeful interest and application to the lay perspectives in human conditions that typically do not identify a democracy's omni-egalitarian values within human event scenarios in any correlation to awareness of a system's topological characteristics, respecting the individual's geometry of thinking, with any accreditation of always being in universe, as is nature's minimum structural systems, self-regenerating pattern integrity. We can never get out of universe, is the point. Among human events are EIS, EDP, experiences, intuition, speculations, experiments, discoveries, production, Synergetics 502.22, where we learn more about this irreversible, non-identically repetitive regenerating process, to which we ought to pay more attention compared to finite energy events, which include books written, thoughts expressed, and structures completed that may have initiated as experiments in various stages of performance. The totality forms evidence of the constant relative abundance of patterned quanta's most economic behavior. Synergetics 511.02. The human event scenarios typically are dependent not only on the PRJWBCHM factors, but also on divisive sociological, political, economic, self-righteously playing one side against another. As a result, throughout centuries in the making, the R-factor self-serving ambitions continue to be given the greatest latitude, freed from essential restraints, permitted to provide remedial, superficial physical solutions, such as stained glass edifices and houses of worship, artifacts and symbols for religious interpretation, scriptures and dogma to supply philosophical meaning, solutions for imaginations, curiosity and wonderment about a higher power beyond humans. Such a power's presence resides in a self-assurance and deepest fulfillment, hoping and praying, but seem always to be missing as an essential lovingness that is ever unrequited as an answer to indescribable questions. Religions, per se, have been designated as a supposedly essential, praiseworthy function without which humans supposedly could not correctly behave, as religion provides a type of switchboard for the human imagination's indirect line to the highest power. Wonderment about the inexplicable but naturally intuited correlation to the integral design of the individual and humans as an evolving species is falsely satisfied by belief systems. Among belief systems, religion in particular seems to be the most radical, least rational reasons to amass power, as it is permitted by politics and justice to continue the delusion that is unabated for the most part as the chasms widen between science and the humanities. This widening causes increasingly complicated scenarios in the human condition that use politics, religion, and justice to deliberately divide to conquer human populations, to keep us divided, to keep our humanity conquered. Those strategies greatly depend on the J factor's punitory justice, its final authority in the grand scheme of things, over centuries of subconscious induction, positioning key players in organizations that have no intention whatsoever to acknowledge our humanity's omni-egalitarian values as a contributive evolving intelligence that is designed in principle to gather cosmic to local information for solving the most complex problems. The J factor operates within the most ambitious religion's righteous determination, eventually to rule the world, as the most powerful and trustworthy system exemplified in CARE's wheelhouse of lawyers that are given permission by the world's ignorantly educated governing systems to manipulate its ships of state, ignorantly allowed thus to play every supposedly legitimated P and J angles that overtake many local populations, offsetting any challengers in the process. Democracies around the world must not be fooled by belief systems. Those belief systems show no intention of obsoleting the malfeasance of its beliefs that compel followers to overtake and subdue freedoms by indoctrinations to its irrational ideology. CARE CAIR, Council on American Islamic Relations, and the Islamic religion systems is an example to identify. Under the guise of American associated misidentified friendships that are constitutionally protected, where, in quotes, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, end quote. Legally permits forming councils that can exercise operations that in truth are against the American nation, one of which is CAIR, C-A-I-R, Council on American Islamic Relations. See Wikipedia and see the brutal details about Islam's plan that the media ignores by Bridget Gabriel on the Rubin Report, January 30th, 26. Democratic nations everywhere on earth continue to be fooled as the Islamic intentions misguide the gullible masses into murky agendas that can play into the hands of news reporting agencies who eagerly promote casting aspersions at the opposite side of the political system, deliberately or inadvertently keeping the people off balance. This is happening as the concept religion's R factor has been given free reins to exercise any extent of its long-range scheme without concern of being prohibited in the process. In particular, the Islamic ideology is the most destructive, although it can be any hierarchically situated doctrines that do not intend becoming an obsolete, aberrant, false-premised concept, as it ought to be, especially now that our synergetically tuned-in, intelligent 21st century generations are apprised of nature's coordinate system's equanimity model and the synergetic hierarchy's conceptuality that conceptually corresponds with anticipating omnirational democracy's equanimity on Earth. But since there are so many loopholes to slip in and out of by the underhanded instigating insurgents, hiding behind religions while ignorant masses continue striving to form a more perfect union, the unities of faithful humans whose common person is to live and let live, defend the homeland, protect the children and all future progeny, albeit not having yet consciously differentiated the disguised game players from their deliberately propagated absences of forethought, some of whom arise within the official ranks to blindly follow the subterfuge leadership under the guises and schemes from inherited corrupting computations, further separating our humanity's integration potentials, thus attempting to debilitate metaphysical intellect's consciously active lifetime on Earth that is designed in generalization principle as a function of omnirational universe, not yet realizing what Arbutminster Fuller discovered. That is listed among the always and only coexisting complementarities that physics has found, some of which are conceptual integrals of the synergetics hierarchy and Bucky's anticipatory computer programming complexities and design of his atomic computer complex we can learn more about in Synergetics 427.03 through 427.17. Let us not forget that, in quotes, integration discretely controls the coordination of all complex interactions, end quote, as we peruse some of the directly applicable, always and only coexisting complementarities from Synergetic's dictionary as follows: inexplicable and explicable, innocuous and critical proximity, inhibit and distribute, irrelevance and geodesics, integration and disintegration, internal and external, omnidirectional and discretely directional, radials and circumferentials, reality and conceptuality, self and non-self, in parentheses, environment, spheres and spaces between spheres, specialization and generalization, space and thinkable, specialization and comprehensivity, synergy and annihilation, synergy and energy, synthesis and analysis, temporal experience and eternal conceptuality, vector equilibrium and tetrahedron, vector equilibrium and star tetrahedron, zero and heat, zero and system. Until next time, gratefully, faithfully, eternally, Christina Herlovson.